All right, we can call the meeting to order then. And as we usually do, I will run through the public meeting guidelines. Meetings of the ARPA committee are public meetings as defined by the Connecticut Freedom of Information Act and should follow those guidelines. As this public meeting is held virtually, it will be recorded and made available to view on the DDS website. Committee members must make a good faith effort to state their name and title each time they speak during the meeting. If a committee member would like to speak, please raise your hand and one of the co-chairs will acknowledge you. There is no public comment portion to this meeting. Members of the public are able to join, watch, and listen only. So with that said, we can go about our business. First on the agenda is to review and hopefully approve the minutes from the previous meeting, and we apologize. They should have gone out with the agenda and didn't. So please, what I guess we could do here, Shannon just sent them out a few minutes ago. If you could take a couple of minutes to read them, and we can, you know, quietly read, and then in a couple of minutes we can amend, approve, or whatever we need to do with the minutes. So if you could does everybody have them? Anybody not have them? Okay, we'll take a minute or two if you could take a look. How's everybody doing? Are we ready to move on? I'm not sure how to know when everybody's done reading. um, but does anybody need more time? Okay. Are there any amendments or omissions or anything that need to be corrected in the minutes? Okay, hearing none, I could entertain a motion to approve the minutes from December 19th.
Motion to approve Maricruz Ortiz Benton, Connecticut.
Thank you. Was there a second? I'm sorry.
This is Jerry Kogut, parent and part of Midstate ARC. Second.
Thank you. And this is Greg McMahon from DDS. I'm sorry, I did not identify myself. So there's a motion and a second. All those who want to approve. Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, hearing none, the minutes are approved from December 19th. Thank you. Our primary agenda item today is to discuss something that we're through the ARPA committees, we're trying to get some videos done that describe the services. It's sort of consistent with a lot of what we've been talking about on our committee, is ways to educate people about services that we provide. And our communication director, along with McDowell, the communication consultant, have been working on the idea that we put together some videos on a few services that we provide. Shannon sent to you a description along with the agenda that to make short videos on the following services: supportive housing, individualized home supports, assistive technology, community companion homes, CCH, customized employment, remote supports, and self-direction. The videos would be short, probably in the area of 3 minutes or so. So they can't give in-depth, in-depth, lengthy descriptions of those programs, but maybe serve as introductory videos about the services. In discussions with Kevin, both Shannon and I had asked whether these are promotional or educational, because promotional may be more of the, maybe a little different. And I think the idea is a little of both. We want people to see that the services that are realistic and might work for certain people in certain situations, but we also want them to be realistic in making sure people understand what the services are, all in 3 minutes. So there's the outline of the videos is to perhaps have an introduction of an explanation of what the support is, a tour or demonstration of what the service is, testimonial from the individual family member or whomever is involved, and how to find out more information. They also to talk a little bit about the challenges and perhaps address fears that a family or an individual might have. Again, a lot to put into 3 minutes, but that's what McDowell's area of expertise is. They've asked for information so they can prepare to work with the film crews and directors and everybody else involved on how best to piece this together and put together a storyboard that will represent each of those services effectively. So they want feedback from us on what we see should be covered in those videos. And so that's kind of where we're at. And I would think it'd probably be best if I let Maura from McDowell speak a little bit more, probably with a little more expertise than I have about what they're looking for.
Thanks, Greg. This is Maura Fitzgerald from McDowell Communications Group. So actually, Greg, I thought you explained it pretty well. What we're looking to do, creating this series of 7 videos, 3 to 4 minutes each. But when they are filmed, we're obviously going to be filming more than 3 to 4 minutes. So there might be an opportunity to do some of these videos in a little more of a longer form. So you could have like a 3 to 4 minute video that summarizes things. But then if people wanted to hear more, we might be able to have like a longer video that people could choose to click into and watch if they wanted to. But I think that the goal that we kind of envisioned, and Greg, you basically said it, was we want individuals and family members to be able to watch these videos and be able to, potentially envision their loved one being able to use these services. So obviously the services aren't going to be for everyone, but we kind of, I think one of the big challenges that we're thinking that we're going to see is that people are thinking, yeah, technology is great. This is great. This is going to help a lot of people, but it's not for my, my family member, or, my family member needs a higher level support than this. So they think it's great in concept that people can use technology to live more independently, but they have a hard time seeing that for their own family member or for themselves. So we kind of want to structure these videos so that people can see the possibility in these technologies being available for their family members or for themselves. But along with that, we also want to be realistic about the technology. Obviously, that there are going to be some challenges for some people, and we want to lay those out. We don't want to just create a rosy picture, that everyone who uses this is magically everything is going to be great for them. So we want to be very realistic about how we go about doing this, and I think that's kind of what we're hoping to glean from you all. First of all, to get a sense of, I think, prioritization in the videos, because we're not going to be able to do these and have them all ready to go at the same time. So if there are some videos that would be more important or more interesting than others, we want to prioritize getting those done and getting those produced and out for people to look at. So kind of getting a sense of the priorities, and then also just a sense of, I don't know, I guess what would be compelling to individuals and families to know about these things.
This is Shannon Jacobino, DDS Ombudsperson. Pat Tyler has her hand raised.
Hi, Pat Tyler, parent. One question I have about all the videos, is there going to be some kind of a, in the introduction, is it going to be made clear to people that just because these services exist doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get them? Because we don't want people to have the impression that it's like there's a boutique of services and you just kind of check off which one you think you want, and that's the end of the story, because we know that that's not true. So I think it's important that that be made clear somehow in the introduction or at the end or somewhere in a video.
This is Maura from McDowell Communications Group. We can definitely do that. And Pat, we've already started, like we just had a survey that's going out that should be hitting people's mailboxes today, tomorrow, in the next few days. And we tried to make it clear in there that this isn't, this isn't going to be for everybody. And those are conversations that will come down the line with individuals and families and their case managers and providers and other people. But, broadly speaking, this is what is out there. But yeah, we're trying to be very cognizant of the fact that we don't want people to think that everything is going to be for everybody.
This is Pat Tyler, parent. Is each individual service going to have something about what the process is going to be required in order for a family to access that service for their loved one? Or is that considered to be some other process outside of these videos?
This is Maura from McDowell. I don't believe that that's going to be part of the videos. 3 to 4 minutes is really not a long amount of time. So I think the videos are more focused on, introing the technology or whatever the assistive device is, demonstrating it, kind of hearing from the individual or the family member or staff members, how this is, what kind of a difference this has made for them. And then the end will be kind of a call to action for where to find more information. But I don't think we're going to get into the technical details of how to access these things. I think that's kind of down the line.
This is Shannon Giacomino, DDS and Buds person. I see that Dr. Ellis has her hand raised. And just more for clarification, I think what Pat means is that with many of the services that DDS offers, residential supports, day supports, you have to have, funding for these supports, and not every individual has funding for residential support. So I just wanted to clarify that for you, that I think there's an understanding that maybe every support isn't for everyone. However, people need to have funding in order to access certain types of supports, and not everyone has that kind of funding. So I just wanted to clarify for that for you. Dr. Ellis has her hand raised.
Good morning, Cheryl Ellis, Director at DEI. I just want to ensure that we, in these videos, do keep a lens of diversity. And there are some families that may be interested in where these programs are located, language capacity, things of that nature. So as we talk, if we could keep that in mind and speak to those aspects as well.
This is Shannon Giacomino, DDS on Buds person. I think it would be great for members of the committee to think back to the presentations that we had on each of these service options, and to think about what came to mind when you were watching those videos. What information did we see that you thought was important information for each of these service options? What information maybe did we not get in the presentation that you think needs to be there in a video? If you want, we can do it for each individual option, anything that came to mind when you watch those presentations, because I think that the presenters did a really good job of explaining those supports and giving us a vision for what they would look like. And so what do you remember, and what jumped out to you when you were watching those presentations that you think Maura needs to hear from us?
This is Greg McMahon from DDS. As you're thinking through what Shannon just introduced there, we have there's a couple of videos that are already out there that are posted here. in the chat. So they may be helpful to folks at McDowell to take a look at some of the things that we've already done about these services. So thanks for sharing those. And this is Greg McMahon from DDS again. One of the things that, aside from challenges, because we are, having a small section on what challenges people might have in this, I'm wondering whether it would make sense to ask families or individuals what their fears were going in, and how those fears may have been allayed once they were included or started out into these programs. I think a lot of people probably go in with apprehension and concern about trying something that they're not used to or don't know much about. And I think that could be helpful. And I see Adriana has her hand up.
Good morning, Adriana Ramirez, Connecticut Family Support Network and relative. About the videos and the process that we're going through, I guess I'm just trying to see, how can I word this? What is the flow? Because I think part of the challenge that we keep hearing from the past is that there's so much out there and things are just kind of thrown out and put here and put there, and people aren't getting the information, or it's overwhelming, or it's confusing. So I see that I'll give you an example. Just recently with the whole ARPA initiative, 2 communications went out. It was the forums of Commissioner Sheff, the information forums, and signing up for the input. So I got a lot of confusion from families because I had to actually read the 2 different things to make sure if they were together separated. So we're starting off not that well because I think because of the time frame, sometimes we do have to just step back a second and create some kind of flow, because if we start with, now we're talking about videos where you still got people confused and not really understand ARPA, and now they're asking to be asked to be giving about day services, and they're all asking, well, when's this rolling out, when they haven't even had an information session, or they haven't even heard about ARPA from either directly from the case managers or from anyone, or they saw it maybe on social media, didn't realize it. So it's almost like we're running an introduction, but we're asking for your input at the same time, but you have no idea what to input about, even though you can input about day services. But I feel that families are in the shock mode right now, that they're stuck on, what is this ARPA? They see 300 individuals. They see how now. Their question now is, how are people going to get picked? How is this going to impact? So I think we're creating a little bit of anxiety already without creating that first step that we should have done or should be doing, is laying the foundation of information of what this is, because a confused mind cannot give input. And I think we're creating a lot of confusion right now.
This is Shannon Jacobino, DDS ombudsperson. I think that those are really important points, Adriana, in terms of how people are receiving information about ARPA. I think with the videos right now, our committee is being asked to give feedback because these videos are going to be probably not going to be released until sometime next spring. So this is sort of laying the groundwork for the information that's going to be available, but it's a process. And so this won't be a part of the initial, this won't be a part of the initial communications. But in terms of thinking forward, we have to be able to give feedback on that. And I see Maura has her hand raised. I think she'll probably address that as well.
Yeah, and I'll just add really quick, sorry, Maura. I think we'll get a lot of information from those input sessions as well, to kind of give maybe some direction on the videos coming from the side of the family. I think whoever hosts them will be able to pull out some information, key areas that people are concerned about when you're talking about day service, residential services, and use that information to start developing some of the videos. Also looking at the current videos that DDS is doing, seeing how many are watched, what perspective is it currently? Is it it all DDS side? Can we add more visual? What is friendly? How much information do we want to give families? Like I put in the chat, is this a snapshot? Like what are we trying to do with the video specifically? Is it to give a brief overview, like a teaser to say, okay, this sounds interesting. Here's the call to action that Maura said, so you can get deeper into it to find out if it's a real fit. Is it a testimonial video? Is it information video? Is it a success video? Is it, what is the main type of video that we're looking for? Thank you.
Yeah, this is Maura Fitzgerald from McDowell. I was just going to say, I know that there's all these information sessions that are taking place this month. These videos, in terms of timing, probably will not start to roll out until mid to late February, and into March. So, and it might end up even being pushed back a little bit more, just depending on, production schedule and when we can get things filmed and all that kind of stuff. So this isn't something that's going to be happening, in the next few weeks. So I think the hope is that the information sessions that the commissioner and others are having this month are going to start to fill in those blanks and lay the groundwork. And then these videos are kind of the next stage of that. And things may change depending on the input that you guys provide here or the input that we receive in the other sessions that are going on this month. But I think the current vision for these videos is to show the possibilities of what could be, things that could work for people, and to show that they are working for people in certain settings. So it's not to, I don't think it's to sell people on the particular thing that's being highlighted in the video. It's more to give people a sense that these are possibilities that are out there that could work for individuals and families. So hopefully that's helpful.
This is Shannon Giacovino, DDS Ombudsperson. Maricruz Ortiz has her hand raised.
Yeah, Maricruz Ortiz, Benton, Connecticut. I just think it's important to hear from the individuals, any challenges that they had transitioning from a very restrictive home, CLA, CRS, into IHS or CCH. I think it'll ease families hearing it directly from them.
This is Shannon Giacovino, DDS Ombudsperson. Adriana, do you have your hand raised again, or is this from before? Okay. I also wanted to add more of that. I think I've heard that if videos are in YouTube, that YouTube has a translation feature, and so we've discussed that on this committee. So I think when the videos are on the website, if they can, I think DDS does most of their videos on YouTube, but if it can be in YouTube so that people have the opportunity to use that translation feature, and maybe giving some direction on the website on how to use that translation feature would be helpful.
This is Greg McMahon from DDS. Adriana wrote a comment in the comment section, just it says, so we can do did you know video series so it sounds informational and audience perceives they are getting general information. The other piece that I'm thinking about is that if we had no, Shannon and I actually were talking about some of these communication issues you raised, Adriana, about the multiple meetings all going out at once and which one's which, and which session should I go to, and one is limited, the other's wide open. There was just, they created some confusion across the board. We're feeling we need to somehow figure out how to tighten that up. In terms of the videos, though, I think if there were no ARPA, We're lacking on service descriptions and information for people in all of our websites. We have done, as you've posted, a number of different videos on services, but sort of haphazardly, each video a little bit different, formatted different, providing information differently. And so whether we were in an ARPA initiative or not, I think that the idea of having multimodal descriptions of services people might want to use would be useful, and is missing now from what we're doing with some customized employment videos that have been done, or a few others when we were working on individual initiatives in the past.
This is Shannon Giacovino, DDS ombudsperson, and that is, I think, one of the first discussions that we had as a committee is the need to make sure that we are giving people information in a lot of different ways, so that people can access the information in the way that is the most helpful to them. Dr. Ellis has her hand raised. This is Shannon Giacovino, DDS ombudsperson.
This is Cheryl Ellis, Director, DEI, DDS. I was just wondering, in terms of accessibility, I know we've talked a little bit about that regarding, the language of the videos. Will it be at a 6th grade level? Will there be visual aids as well? Because some people hear information better through pictorial communication. So I was just wondering the format of the video.
This is Maura from the McDowell Communications Group. I think the format is still a little bit fluid, and I think we're contemplating, having some pieces in there that are illustrations. But I think the basic format of the video is going to be some sort of an intro or an explanation. I am hoping that we can kind of have a relatively standard introduction across the videos and maybe all done by the commissioner, but that's still to be determined. And then, a demonstration of how this the technology or whatever the support is that we're featuring in the video. So it could be a tour of someone's house, or, or kind of as someone said, like a home shopping network style demonstration of how the technology would work. While that is going on, there's probably going to be some voiceover. And as we're filming these, what we're going to be doing is asking, we need to come up with kind of a standard set of questions that can be asked of the individual who's doing the demonstration, of their family members who might be with them, or other support persons that might be with them, whoever we're going to have doing kind of the testimonial pieces. But it's not going to be scripted. What we want to kind of do, and what I'm hoping I can work on with you all, is what questions we should be asking. And like Maricruz, I know you were talking about making sure that we're hearing from the individuals and the families on the challenges of moving from one kind of level of support to another level of support. Coming up with whatever that question is that we can ask, that would be great. So it's still a little fluid, Cheryl, as to what exactly the format will be, but we will, we're going to take y'all's advice and do what needs to be done for the videos. So if there needs to be illustrations in there, we can do that. The questions that will be asked will be very basic, and things will be done on an understandable level.
This is Shannon Giacovino, DDS ombudsperson. Adriana has her hand raised.
Adriana Ramirez, Connecticut Family Support Network, and relative. I wanted to answer a comment towards what Maura was talking about, what questions to ask. And I think since coming from the relative side, and I know Pat and Jerry and others have mentioned this before, and we always say that, don't paint it rosy, because a lot of times, and I'm not talking about DDS, we're just talking in general, so many things are presented and it just looks beautiful and everybody's so happy, and that doesn't always is the case. So I was wondering if we could just simply ask whatever their testimonial is, whatever service they're talking about, if just ask them, what was the most either positive thing in the process, and what challenge did you face? What was the biggest challenge? So you get not, I don't want to call it good and bad, because it's not good and bad. It's just both sides of the coin. And so that way families, and it's not confusing, and it's just saying what was the most positive part of the process or end result, and was there any big challenge or anything that stood out to you? I also I looked at the 4-minute video just for curiosity, and I think if we can suggest a certain, like you were saying, a certain format, what to cover. The customized employment basically said, what is customized employment? They talked about it for a little bit. Who is customized employment for? Talked a little bit about who it's for, and then they talked about the customized employment process, and then they put at the end a call to action. If you're interested in, these are all slides, interested in customized employment, next steps, and they listed the department to call, phone number. So I think if for the videos, so that way they're all answering the same questions and the same call to action, and you're just filling in the different service. People can kind of, once, like you were saying, if the formatting is the same, you're answering the same questions, then I think that's an easy apples to apples way where families can compare the different videos and services, because they're all giving you the same thing in the same format, and it's easier to digest. Thank you.
Yeah, this is Maura Fitzgerald from McDowell Communications Group. I think, Adriana, that's the, I think those are great suggestions, and I think that's definitely the way to do it, is to have like a uniform standard way to present each of these videos.
Shannon Giacovino, DDS ombudsperson. Greg, I think you're the only person with your hand raised. Greg, you're on mute.
This is Greg McMahon from DDS. I think we may have referred to it as in our discussion, but very often some of the videos we have done in the past or presentations tend to show folks who are not as challenging, maybe behaviorally or medically, as many of the people we support. So as you're looking for the cast, the examples of people who would be participating in the video, that it is a broad brush of people with varying abilities and varying challenges. So if a family looks at it, they can see their child or loved one potentially succeeding or not in that environment based on I don't know, the characteristics of the people in there. We did a really nice presentation here to this group of supportive housing with a really lovely couple in a really beautiful setting, and great people. But some of the feedback was, this is a married couple living in an apartment, didn't necessarily represent some of the challenges that other folks we support might have. So as we look at who might be in the video, if it can represent a broad brush of the population we support.
This is Shannon Giacovino, DDS ombudsperson. And yeah, just to piggyback on what Greg said, when we asked providers to come in and do the presentations, we specifically asked them to address with us, who won't this work for? You know, are there certain people where this kind of support option is really not going to be the best option for them? And the example of supported living, there were two things that the provider was able to address for us. One was that the provider actually has what's called a CRS in the apartment complex. CRS is a 24-hour setting. So, you know, all of the information that I had received or that I had seen on supported employment prior to that, I thought it was a setting where there was staff on site for 24 hours, but not staff in the apartment for 24 hours. The provider was able to tell us that they actually have, you know, in each of the complexes, one apartment where there is 24-hour staffing in the apartment. So that, I think, helped us to understand that, you know, for somebody who needs a 24-hour setting, that's a possibility in that type of model. I didn't know that before that, even though I had seen other presentations. The other thing we asked the providers to do is, like I said, to tell us, you know, who might not be a good fit for that option. And using that model again, the provider was able to tell us that, you know, it would be difficult for them to support someone in a wheelchair in that option because they're concerned about being able to get someone out of the building if they needed to evacuate for a fire. They have also not been able to really figure out how to support people who have irregular sleep patterns because there are neighbors around them. So if someone is up all night long, and they're making noise, that might be an issue. And, you know, they've tried to stack apartments so that maybe, you know, that might address it. But I think understanding those kinds of challenges, you know, those are hopefully things that will get figured out. But at this point, that provider was not able to sort of figure that out. I think it's important to kind of have that real information that's going to give people an accurate picture so that, like we said, they understand the benefits, but they also understand that there are some challenges as well.
This is Greg McMahon, PDS. Just to clarify Shannon's point about the CRS, just it is a separate service. It just happens to be in the existing complex. So the supportive housing video probably wouldn't cover the CRS portion because it's not supportive housing, it's a CRS. So I just want to clarify that the CRS, to lack of a better word, model that's within that complex probably wouldn't be part of a supportive housing video because it isn't. It just happens to be sort of co-placed with the supportive housing complex. So it may not be included in that video. If that made sense.
Shannon Giacovino, DDS Ombudsperson. Thanks, Greg. I think that's an important clarification and one that I missed, and you're right about that. Shannon Giacovino, DDS Ombudsperson. Maura has her hand raised.
Yeah, so this is Maura Fitzgerald from McDowell Communications Group. Shannon, I wasn't sure if it was possible or appropriate at this point to kind of go through each of the video topics and kind of get a sense from everyone, like what should be featured in the video, especially in terms of challenges, that sort of thing, and you know what's important to have in the video, maybe what's not so important to have in the videos.
Shannon Giacovino, DDS Ombudsperson. I think that's a good idea, Maura. Do you want to go through that list?
Sure, this is Maura from McDowell Communications Group. Yep, I can go through the list. And also as we're going through, if there are, if there are topics that are kind of more important or that would appeal to more people that should, that you think should come out kind of sooner rather than later, let me know. Because one of the things that I'm hoping we can do too is kind of prioritize these 7 videos, because like I said, we're hoping to film them all at the same time. You know, it's probably going to be a 2 or a 3-day process to film all of these, but then it's going to take time to, you know, produce them and edit them and whatnot. So they will roll out in a staggered fashion. So if there are videos that should come out before other videos do, please do let me know so that I can, you know, make that, we can kind of put the prioritization together for the production company that's doing the videos. But if we wanted to start with the supportive housing video, and I should preface this by saying I have not had a chance to watch the videos that currently exist, so I'm learning about all of this as we go along. But if anyone has in the supportive housing video, you know, things that you think should definitely be featured, things that you know, what, you know, challenges we should kind of make sure get teased out in the interview process, please fire away and let me know.
Shannon Jacobino, DDS ombudsperson. Greg?
I think in supportive housing, it may be that an individual or family right now, if you were to ask them what it is, might think it's my loved one's going to go live in an apartment, and that they might get some IHS support. But I think it would be important to emphasize other supports that aren't typical, that would make people understand this isn't just another apartment where my son or daughter is going to live independently, but that it is a setting that offers 24/7 available staff, that there's community involvement activities that are planned, that include everybody in the community, not just the folks supported by DDS or the agency. I guess to let folks know that there's a safety net beyond just a place to live with IHS support. And also, again, all in a 3 or 4 minute video, mentioning that there is, you know, a lot of these supports overlap. So while you may live in supportive housing, you may also have remote support, or you also might have assistive technology. So being able to represent that it's more than just the house, but that there's a number of different ways to get support. So a family member who's concerned that they're just going to be put in an apartment left to their own devices understands there's a lot more.
Shannon Jacobino, DDS ombudsperson. Adriana has her hand raised.
Good morning, Adriana Ramirez, Connecticut Family Support Network. Relative, I guess I wanted to ask a question. The videos are informational to just get more eyes on and clarification. So from what I'm understanding, and we know that families are confused about what services, what everything stands for. So does it really make sense to put videos out of order per se, instead of doing a video like almost like I don't want to call it a course, but it's more of tiering videos, like, you know, let's talk about the different types of services, or the different types, and then talk about maybe supportive housing under that, or day services, what is residential services, in-home supports. So that way we're still not piecemealing the information to families, and organize it in a way where it's sent out to them, taking them on a journey, versus we think you may want to stop here, and you think now you're going to stop here, and today you're going to stop here, and there's no journey. There's no path through what we're trying to, take them through. So I'm thinking of as a family because, we know because we're in it, but families, to have just different topics randomly chosen with no, not want to say no rhyme or reason, but there's no flow. There's no journey. There's no direction. Where do we want to take them based on what we know about families, about confusion, about trying to help them better understand? It's almost like we're gonna start with step one. What does step one mean, or where's service one, or whatever, and then take them through those 3 or 4 minute videos, more of a journey versus I don't know how else to explain. I have in my head, but it's not, I don't think I'm actually explaining it correctly, but hopefully I am. Thank you.
So this is Shannon Giacovino, DDS Ombuds person. Adriana, these aren't videos that are going to be sort of released as like come watch this GDS video. This is information that is going to be on the website. That'll be part of a description of, that sort of multimodal description, like Greg was saying, of what this particular kind of support is. Does that fit with what you were thinking? I'm just trying to make sure that I'm understanding, or that we're understanding what you're saying, because this isn't sort of another thing that's going to be sort of released. And so I see that Pat says that she agrees with your comment, and so I'm hoping that maybe you all can maybe clarify that a little bit more, because I don't think I'm understanding what you're saying.
Yeah. So Adriana from Connecticut Family Support Network relative. So I guess I want to make sure I understand. Where are the videos going to be housed, and how are they going to be released to let families know? That'll kind of maybe help me understand, because you have to release them and communicate that they're out there, or you're not releasing them as it's just going to be part of a static website, or yeah, I'm sorry, just trying to understand where the videos are going to be, to see, is it going to be kind of like the website page that we're trying to create these definitions for, and then there's going to be a video under there for each definition per se, or like, because I guess I'm misunderstanding how it's going to be.
So this is Shannon Giacovino, DDS Ombuds person. My understanding is that this is, and Maura, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, that this is an attempt to start to build that information that's accessible to people that we've talked about, which is, there's information on the website where you can go and you can find information about each type of support that DDS offers, and that it is, the video is one piece of information. It is not all of the information. So Maura, can you elaborate on that, or?
This is Maura Fitzgerald from McDowell Communications Group. I think you're right, Shannon. I don't know my understanding is that these videos will be put on the website. I assume in kind of like the ARPA transformation area of the website. But right now, I mean, my task is to get the videos made. So I'm not quite sure what the ultimate plan is for how DDS is going to roll them out to people. But I think Shannon, your understanding was my understanding as well, that they're just a piece, another tool that people, can be directed either by the commissioner or by their case managers or whomever, their other support people, to say, oh, if you want to learn a little bit more about, supportive housing and what that is, here's a short video that you can go watch on the website. But I think as it gets closer to having the videos, we will have a plan for where they're going to be and how they're going to be rolled out.
This is Shannon Giacovino, DDS Ombuds person. Pat?
Hi, Pat Tyler, parent. I just want to go back to what Adriana said, because I think it's very important what you're trying to say. We already, there's already a lot of confusion about lists of services. I understand this will be better and different because they're different services, so I understand the intention. At the same time, I think that if it's not presented any differently, you're going to get similar results to what we always got, which is people going on a website. Some people are good at that. Some people aren't. They're not going to understand. They're not going to, as she pointed out, they're not going to get the flow of the whole thing. I mean, imagine you're someone who doesn't speak English and you read this thing and you're just trying to understand how you're supposed to access it. I think it's very important that there be some kind of wrapping on this that makes it so that people understand. First of all, there'll be people that are going to go on here that don't have case managers, so we can't rely on that being, the wrapping on this. There should be a process that makes it, that introduces the concept in a positive way, introduces what steps families will have to do, either at the end or the beginning. You watch these videos and then you're kind of left with, now what am I supposed to do? Because if you don't do that and you just kind of package it like, here's some new and shiny services you can get, there's nothing transformative about that for families. It's just one more way of packaging. So I think we don't have to do this now, but I think it should be, bookmarked for the future, that how this gets presented. I find it disturbing it would just show up on the website. I think it needs more than that for it to be effective.
This is Shannon Giacovino, DDS Ombuds person. I think it's important to make a distinction between what we're trying to do here and the need for what I think is an overall communications plan around ARPA. And so I think that some of what Pat and Adriana are addressing, and I agree, is that there needs to be context and that we need to have sort of an overall plan. Pat, could you mute yourself, please?
Sorry, sure.
That's okay. An overall plan for, I think, maybe doing a better job of helping people to understand what's happening, that there's this process, and what it means. And I think, as Greg said, I think we've had a discussion about that. I think the commissioners' meetings will hopefully start that process, but I do think that there needs to be an overall coordinated plan. Today, all that we're doing is, as part of being able to, in ARPA and beyond, make sure that people get information about the kinds of services that DDS offers. And that information is accessible and understandable and multimodal. DDS is looking to create videos. And so what we need today, I mean, obviously all of the feedback is good and we need to be better at communicating and we need to have that information too. But what Maura needs from us right now is what needs to be in those videos for each service option and for what order they should, kind of focus on. So I think, having a discussion around the communication plan and how ARPA is being communicated to people is an important discussion. But right now we're just sort of trying to figure out what needs to be in those videos. What feedback does Maura need for us to make those videos meaningful and helpful to people when they're viewing them? And I think we also need to get that feedback around communication, but maybe not on this particular part of the agenda, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Maura has her hand raised.
Yeah, this is Maura from McDowell Communications Group. I was just going to say, one of the other things that my group is doing is putting together a communications plan. So there will be a comprehensive communications plan that rolls all of this stuff out. These videos are one component of that. And the survey that's going out right now to individuals and families is another component of that. But Pat, to your point, there will be like a coordinated and thought out communications plan that rolls everything out for the next several months to a year. So and I definitely will be coming back to you guys for input on that as we start working on that too.
Shannon Jacobino, DDS ombudsperson, and I think that you've gotten a lot of good feedback today, Maura, on I think some of the gaps in that plan already. I do think that there's unfortunately has not been a lot of information about ARPA out in the community, and there really isn't that context. And so I think, I'm hoping that, if we can get a good turnout for the commissioners' meetings, that will sort of help to frame things. But I think that repetition is really important, and making sure that there's just sort of context for what's happening. I think that's lacking right now. Does anybody have any more feedback on the videos themselves? Adriana, I think you gave some really good feedback about the importance of kind of, to a certain extent, standardizing things, making sure that each video is giving people the same kind of information for that service option. We talked about making sure that it is accessible in a lot of different ways, including language and maybe getting some visuals in there. Is there any other information? I'd be interested in hearing from people, case managers and, people who work from within DDS too, on what you hear from families when you're supporting people, if you have any of that. And also we have a self-advocate coordinator on here too. I'd love to hear some different perspectives on this because I think it's important for Maura to hear all of that. All right, this is Shannon Jacobino, DDS ombudsperson. Does anybody have any additional feedback for Maura specifically on the videos? Any case managers, self-advocate coordinators, supervisors from DDS, any other information from families? It would be good to get that information now because these videos are going to be an important piece of an overall communication for individuals and families on these services.
This is Kevin Arce, self-advocate coordinator. I'd just like to say that if you're gonna show videos of any kind, make sure they have subtitles too, for those who may be how you say blind or like visually what's the word just can't see that well, or if they can't hear either, because we gotta make everyone included. That's all I really have to say.
This is Greg McMahon from DDS. There's a comment I want to make sure we didn't miss it. Adriana put in questions, which was questions would be what is blank, who's it for, basics of the service, testimonials about the service, CTA interested in, I'm not sure what CTA is, and then next steps. And she said no acronyms, although CTA is an acronym.
But that's an acronym for us.
So call to action. Thank you.
This is Shannon Jacobino, DDS ombudsperson. Mary Cruz has her hand raised.
Maricruz Ortiz, Benford, Connecticut. I think it'll be important, Maura, just to ask the parent guardian, what was your fear about this service? And see.
Shannon Jacobino, DDS ombudsperson. Jessica has her hand raised.
Jessica Sundell, supervisor of case management for DDS. Shannon, I think, I know that you were asking about, perspective from case management. I think that we've touched upon a lot of the, the themes that I would have brought up or that I hear about. And definitely what Kevin just mentioned about subtitles, I'm glad he thought of that because I did not. And Mary Cruz just covered quite a bit too. If I think of anything else, I will put it in the Teams. The Teams, what is that? Teams channel? I don't even know what that's called, but I'll give it some thought and put any additional things that I think of in there.
Thank you, Jessica. Shannon Giacomino, DDS ombudsperson. Maura has her hand raised.
Hi, Maura Fitzgerald from McDowell Communications Group. Shannon, I'm sure you and I are going to be working very closely on this in the next couple of weeks in terms of identifying locations and the people who will be kind of doing these demonstrations and doing the testimonials. But I wanted to throw it out there to the larger group too. If you know of anyone who would be, a good person to, who's using these services now, who might be willing to, be a part of this video process. We have to spend some time in the next couple of weeks, actually pretty quickly, identifying the individuals and the families and different people to demonstrate these things and to provide testimonials. So any input that you all have on that would definitely be welcome as well.
This is Greg McMahon, DDS. I just wanted to make sure we don't lose track of the chats. A couple other comments. Adriana said also what is most positive about the process and the challenge, and asking Mara Cruz said ask the parent or guardian how they overcame the fear. She had raised asked what their fears were, but also how they overcame that. Sorry, Shannon.
This is Shannon Giacomino, DDS ombudsperson. Yeah, I was just going to say in response to what Maura said, if you know of any individuals and families in any of these support options that you think would be good candidates for the videos, then, reach out to Greg or myself and let us know, and we'll share that information with Maura.
This is Greg McMahon for DDS. We still have two hands up. I don't know if those are Mara Cruz and Jessica. Are you new comments?
Jessica Sundell, DDS. No, I'll lower it now. Thank you.
This is Shannon Giacomino, DDS ombudsperson. I think, Adriana just put in the chat, what criteria is a good candidate, as families will ask what will be involved? All right. Does anybody have anything else for this part of the agenda for the videos?
This is Greg McMahon from DDS. I think one of the things that I've been hearing in today's conversation, which I will bring back and seek feedback on, is with our communications director, what is the plan for rollout? I think that came up. If these videos are made and they just land on a website for people to find if they happen to look, probably not good use of our time and money. That there should be some sort of, I'm not good at this stuff, but some sort of announcement and some sort of promotion to get people to want to see them. And I wonder whether or not the idea of a single short video introducing this by the commissioner that says DDS has services, you will be seeing videos on each of those services, and that also might allow for less time having to do that in each video and more time being able to pay attention to the content of that video. But it, there could be a video, short video, why these are coming out, why it's important, those kind of things.
This is Shannon Giacomino, DDS ombudsperson. Adriana put in the chat, a launch of ARPA and updates like a newsletter, an example as an example, and using social media as well as other sources. Utilize the current DDS update sign up. Maura has her hand raised.
This is Maura Fitzgerald from McDowell Communications Group. Adriana, we're working on putting together a newsletter that will go out. And Greg, I can't remember the frequency, if we were going to do it like once a month or once every other month. I know that the first newsletter that's going to come out, once it comes out, will be kind of a summary of kind of the high points of each of the different transformational committees, the work that you all have done like through the summer and the fall. So it'll be a basic summary of the work that's already gone on, and then moving forward, we'll be providing newsletter summaries of the committee work and other things that are going on with the ARPA transformation project. So that's another thing that we are working on right now, is putting that initial newsletter and putting together a newsletter format together. And we're also, with these surveys that have gone out, we are asking people, not on the survey itself, because those are anonymous, but to go onto the DDS website and sign up with their email addresses so that they can get updates. So we're really hoping that the putting out the survey will allow DDS to start collecting more and more email addresses.
This is Shannon Jacobino, DDS Ombudsperson. One of the things that Greg and I have talked about too, Maura, is the importance of utilizing advocacy groups and other groups that are engaged with DDS and asking them to be partners in getting information out, because DDS doesn't have the kind of reach that the agency is trying to build. And so we really do need to, I think, in a formal way, ask groups like, the ARC and the Connecticut Family Support Network and the Alliance that represents the nonprofit providers, that, our entire community needs to be getting information out every time something comes out. Because if we don't do it, then people aren't going to get the information. And I think a good example of that right now is, I'm concerned that the commissioners' meetings are not getting out to people in the way that they should, to ensure that, if this is going to be kind of the first introduction, then we want to try to maximize the number of people that are coming. And I'm not clear that all of our partners are getting that information out. And I think the ask really does need to come from DDS. Is there anything else? Adriana has her hand raised.
Adriana Ramirez, Connecticut Family Support Network relative. I think I mentioned this before, but it's good to know, especially family engagement. For me, it'd be interesting as we're trying these different medias and surveys and trying to, I guess the purpose is trying that increase that engagement. I would like to see, whenever there's a registration or a sign up, I think it would be good to ask the question, how did you hear about the survey, this event? Because you'll be able to get the feedback of where are the families most engaging, who are they engaging with. And I think I mentioned this way back in the beginning as when we were talking about the surveys and the webinars. And I said, you're doing it through Zoom. Zoom allows you to ask that question to be able to see, okay, are they hearing it from their case managers? Are they hearing it from their grassroots organizations? As Shannon just said, are they getting it from the social media page? Because I know we do that with our organization, and it helps a lot to understand where our families are seeing our information or hearing about our information. And it kind of helps, I think, us, meaning ARPA, understanding if we're increasing, or why maybe they're not hearing it for certain source when we assume that's where they're hearing about the information. And when you ask the question, you may discover, no, they're actually getting it from social media, or they're getting it from like ARC or CTFSN or another organization where you think they're getting it from directly from DDS. So I think that'll also help, frame to figure out where are they learning from and utilize those sources. Thank you.
Shannon Jacobino, DDS Buds person. Maura has her hand raised.
Maura Fitzgerald from McDowell Communications Group. Adriana, one of the in the survey that's going out, that's going to be hitting people's homes this week, there are at least two, but there's a series of questions in the survey about where people get their information from, and also kind of who they trust to hear information from. So hopefully if we get a good response to the survey, we'll also get a good sense from that if people are getting their information from the website or from social media or the news or their case manager. So there's so that is something that we're actively asking about in the survey that just went out this week.
This is Shannon Jacobino, DDS Buds person. I mean, since we're talking about communications, I mean, two other things that I would say is that it's really important to get communications out in a timely way. If we want someone to show up for a meeting, then we can't let them know a day or two before the meeting. There needs to be lead time, and then there needs to be a lot of repetition. So, posting once on social media is not enough. E-blasting it once is not enough. We need to, put that information out early and often so that we can maximize the number of people who receive the information. Shannon Jacobino, DDS Buds person. I see Adriana is typing something, so we'll wait for that. And does anybody else have any other feedback, questions, anything before we move on? Okay. We can read Adriana's comment when it comes through, but maybe we should move on to the next part of our agenda, Greg.
Yes, yeah, we're beginning to near the end of our time. The next item on our agenda is topics for future meetings, topics for discussion. I think we had previously on agendas had a line item that said general discussion or something like that, and we just adapted this line a little bit, this agenda item, just to talk about topics for future meetings so that we can make sure that we're covering any new issues or ideas that we want to move forward with. So if there's any discussion or topics for future meetings that anyone has, that'll be a good time, and we can add that for future discussion.
Shannon Jacobino, DDS Buds person. I'm not seeing any comments or any hands raised. Shannon Jacobino, DDS Buds person. Adriana said, thank you, Maura. My suggestions for the videos would be friendly, simple language. Real people, less scripted, story-based.
This is Maura Fitzgerald from McDowell Communications Group. Adriana, that's exactly what we're going for. We also don't want it, we want it to be a good quality video, but we don't want it to be like overly slick and overly produced and that sort of thing. So we're definitely striving to make this as authentic as possible.
This is Shannon Jacobino, DDS Buds person. I think we can probably move to the next item on our agenda, Greg.
Okay, this is Greg McMahon, DDS. Next agenda item is the announcement of our next meeting, which will be on Monday, the 23rd, 10 o'clock. And again, we're moving through the schedule that was coming up for the coming year. There are a couple of, due to holidays, where we may miss a little bit in our cycle of every other week, because a couple of those every other weeks, for example, fell on President's Day, I think, and a Memorial Day. So as we move forward, there may be a few, you'll notice, gaps due to holidays. But next meeting is January 23rd. And if there's nothing else, the next agenda item is adjournment. So if someone would want to make a motion to adjourn.
Shannon Jacobino, DDS ombudsperson. We can't end the meeting unless someone makes a motion to adjourn and someone seconds it, so please.
Jessica
Denise-
Sundell, DDS Case Management Supervisor. I motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Maricruz
Palomino.
Ortiz, oh,
Go ahead, go ahead.
Maricruz Ortiz, Benford, Connecticut. I second that.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, good discussion today. Thank you very much, everybody.